Hi, good afternoon. Well, on India's eve of independence, today we at ET Now have pledged to make you financially free and financially independent. How's the way going to do that? This, of course, is a long haul journey. It can't happen in a day or overnight. So we at ET Now really took this pledge to at least aid that journey for you. Over the next 1 hour, of course, we'll have a whole host of experts. Safalnifesha.com's Vishal Khandelwal is going to be joining us. Sunil Subramaniam from Sundaram Mutual Fund, Radhika Gupta from Edelweiss AMC, and all three speakers will be talking about how to time your goals and not the market, and of course the power of compounding. At 2 p.m. we'll have Feroz Aziz as well join in from Anand Rathi, Neeraj Choksi, Kalpen Parekh from DSP Investment Managers, on why it is important to understand the difference between risk and volatility and the importance of asset allocation as well. So yes, here's our attempt to make you financially independent. And of course, I guess, Nikunj, the journey starts with understanding what is it that you need at what time and journey of your life.
Ayesha, we are celebrating the 77th year of independence, but how many Indians have truly embraced financial freedom?
Yeah.
That, I think, if India is rising, are you rising? And if you're rising, how are you planning? It's a very simple journey. It's a journey which is a very rewarding journey. It's a journey I guess all Indians should embark on. As individuals, you and me should embark on the whole issue of financial planning. What is financial planning? Where you get freedom of time, where you get control over your life, you are able to see your dreams come true, and you are able to fulfill perhaps some materialistic, materialistic objectives of your life. So financial freedom is, I think, is something which everybody should really embark on. And financial freedom, like Ayesha said, it is not just a one-day affair. It is a journey on which you have to start early, remain disciplined, think long-term, and then I can assure you, out of personal experience, that the rewards are just going to be absolutely breathtaking. So the first mantra which we would be discussing here, a very simple mantra. Do not time the markets, but time your goals.
Yeah, like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala himself said, stock markets are always right. No one can time the market, or for that matter, legendary investor Warren Buffett saying time is the friend of the wonderful businesses and enemy of the mediocre. So you've got to stay the course. Stay
the course. And let's look at how staying the course has actually benefited the legendary investor Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. His most famous investment was Titan.
Yeah.
A Titan where he made more than $1 billion. And let's look at the Titan stock here. Why are we looking at the Titan stock here? Because remember, it's the holding period and staying on the course in a wonderful investment which had made the most fantastic return. Now stay with this graphic. I'll explain the graphic. The 2-decade CAGR of Titan is about 45%, and I'm not including dividend. But in that 20-year journey of Titan, you can see those dips, which is Titan in this 20-year journey has seen a correction of more than 50% once. It has seen a 30 to 50% correction of 10 times, and it has seen a 20 to 30% correction more than 10 times. Yet, the stock has given a 45% CAGR return. So if you were in the market timing, trust me, you would have not really benefited from this, one of the biggest compounder in the history of Indian capital market. And why Rakesh Jhunjhunwala was able to really compound his wealth is because he simply did not time his entry and exit in the Titan stock. He stayed on the course, and that is what I think the biggest bedrock for financial planning is, that you should not time the market, but you should time your goal. What are your goals? Child's education, child's marriage, your desire to buy a bigger house or your first house. So whatever dreams are, whatever goals are, time the goal, plan it accordingly, rather than timing the market and then reaching your goal. That, I think, is the most important, most basic, but the most critical mantra of attaining nirvana of financial independence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just following these 5 mantras, and sure enough, your journey is going to be much more profitable and much more easier as well. So don't time the market, time your goals. Rule number 1, make time your best friend. Don't go on checking your returns, checking your scripts on a daily basis. Yes, sure enough, you can't turn a blind eye to all the events and the volatility that the market gets with it, but don't get obsessed over it. Risk versus volatility, try and understand the difference between that, and we'll of course pick up all these mantras with our experts as well in just a short while from now. Start early. Compounding is the eighth wonder, man-made at that, so it's very, very important. And yeah, it's never too late, so start today in case you haven't already begun your journey of financial freedom. And then your asset allocation, make it work for you. It's not wise to put all your eggs in one basket. You must always try and diversify your portfolio. So that is the other mantra. And I think we should start with Vishal. He's always propagated time your goals.
Time your goals, and Sunil Subramaniam is giving him company. So they both are big believer in power of compounding and a big believer in staying on the course. So Vishal, Sunil, good afternoon to both of you. First, happy Independence Day. The spirit of this show is that while we are celebrating our 77th Independence Day, how many of us have actually embarked on this wonderful journey of financial planning? So Vishal, don't time the market, time your goals. Simple, but yet the most important, most ignored truism of the market.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Nikunj. So yeah, timing, not timing the market and timing the goal, I think is the most important thing that you've already said, right? I would rather go one step ahead and say that even more important than the goal is the system that you are living with, the process that you're following as far as your money and investments are concerned, right? We all investing in the stock market with goals in mind, right? Child's education, our own retirement, foreign travel, and all those kind of things. But I think over a period of time, what I've understood that if you always have an eye on the goal, you forget and you lose a part of the process that you need to work on today, right? So if you look at the Titan story, even if you look at the best investors in the world with the most multi-bagger stocks that they've had, I'm sure they would have not really visualized the kind of return that they would have earned from, or they would earn from these kind of stocks over the next 20, 30 years, right? All that they did was to focus on what they're doing today, right? Each day with respect to their stock market investments, not acting all the time. And as you rightly mentioned, I think being in the market, giving it time, right? Over a long period of time, again, I think that's something that they have adhered to. So focusing on what you're doing today, doing it well on a daily basis, I think you're going to go through or you're going to reach through a stage where you can call yourself financially free. And just one more thing about financial freedom, I think a lot of us equate financial freedom only with money. My understanding is that financial freedom goes more beyond that. It also goes beyond that towards independence of time, where you can choose to work on the work that you want to do, the people that you want to work with, at the time that you want to work with, and probably at the place that you want to work with. So focusing on attaining that independence, I think, goes beyond money. Of course, money is what takes you there. But if people visualize financial freedom as that kind of a goal of having independence of doing things at their own time, I think that's a goal worth looking at and worth aspiring for.
And looking at the smiles on Radhika's and Sunil Subramaniam's face, I can tell you that they've reached financial freedom. Right, Sunil? You don't work for money. You work for passion. You work for one of the best AMCs, and you work when you want to work. And when our guest team calls you, you don't take our calls also because you don't want to work that time. So you achieve financial freedom, right, Sunil?
Yes, yes, indeed. But I think where I want to push what you're saying, Nikunj, today is that the issue in India is financial education, literacy is very low. And one of the reasons for that is that your parents had the safety of a public sector job where pension was also given. Most of the government jobs obviously have pension, including banks like State Bank have a pension program. So they never thought of planning for their retirement. But what's changed is socio-demographically is that today the government as an employer, the public sector as an employer is very small. 75% of your jobs are in the private sector or entrepreneurs. One, that means that there is a definite financial goal for everybody, which is how to be financially independent after your earning stream has stopped. So I'm saying you may plan for things like a car and a holiday and all of that, but ultimately the longest term goal, that is retirement, from your current source of revenue, and planning for that is a constant thing which our generation has to take cognizance of. So I think that starting early, staying as long as possible, one component of your investment has to have a 20-30 year time frame, because that's the money which is going to give you financial freedom after your revenue sources have stopped. That's number one. Number two factor is the nuclear familiarization. I think that in our parent generation, they could expect that their parents, they would take care of. But as you know, with the nuclear family and the joint family system going away, we know that we don't want to rely on our children to help us. So that's a second factor which is absolutely important, to keep that very long term in your goal, because you don't want to be medically, financially, anything dependent on your children. You want to be able to take care of that yourself. That's a second important point. The third point, which you made very well in terms of the drawdowns, is that you talk about buy and hold for 30 years. But what the SIP program helps you do, you showed that Titan's growth was despite drawdowns. What the SIP does, the power of compounding, of course, comes to play, but the ability to benefit from drawdowns comes only when you do a systematic long-term investment plan. Because the rupee cost averaging, this is the other phenomenon of SIPs, helps you to accumulate more when there is a drawdown. So you actually end up making a far better return than what you have displayed.
Absolutely. Buy the fear. Can't get better than that. But Radhika, what's more important, while we are quoting examples of Titan and all the big investors who actually stayed the course, it's also important to asset allocate right. Please help our viewers understand why you shouldn't be putting all your eggs in one basket, and that's never a prudent strategy.
Hi, and wishing all of you and your viewers a happy Independence Day. Ignore my throat because I'm down with a terrible cough. But I wanted to have this conversation because it's such an important conversation. I think when we equate market investments, we believe that investing is all or nothing. So traditionally investors were post office and FD investors, and then they become equity investors all of a sudden. Now, the problem with that approach is, a long-term horizon is wonderful. You gave a Titan story, I can give you 10 other stories. But the reality is equities have ups and downs. Equity markets were down 50% in 2008. Equity markets were down in 2013. Mid-caps had a better. All these stories happen. And, there are some very brave people out there, but there are conservative investors. There are people who look at their portfolio statements being down 20%. And they get nervous. And data shows and research shows that unfortunately, in the worst of markets, you also make the worst of decisions. That's where having the cushion of asset allocation through something like a balanced fund, a balanced advantage fund, or your own asset allocation, however you choose to solve the problem, helps. I always believe asset allocation gives you two things. One is it is staying power in the market when markets are down, because instead of being down 20%, you may be down 10% and you'll be more comfortable. The second thing is sometimes, life is uncertain and we have unforeseen needs for money. Now, when equity is down that 30%, taking money out of equity really hurts your compounding journey. But if you have something else like debt, which is not down 30%, you can take it out. So I think asset allocation, I reckon it in, it's a very complicated word, but I reckon it to having a balanced diet. It's like, when you eat, you don't say, I'm just going to eat protein, even though proteins are very good for you. You eat some carb, you eat some protein, you eat some fat, because they all serve a different purpose in your diet. And I truly think that's what asset allocation does. Multiple things serve a different purpose in your portfolio.
Now, perhaps the most important, the most crucial, and the most underrated concept, power of compounding. The minute I would say power of compounding for a sophisticated audience here, they would say, okay, we know about it. But good things can be said again and again, and good things need to be reminding again and again. Albert Einstein, well, yes, some of you know, and those of you don't know, well, this is Albert Einstein. Power of compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and who does not pays it. Now, just to put some perspective here, power of compounding and what power of compounding at 10% can do to your wealth, and what power of compounding at 11% can do to your wealth. Now 10 and 11 may just sound 1% more, but when you put that number and look at the magic of time, that's what 10% can do for you in 10 years. That's what 10% can do for you in 20 years. The minute you make 10, 11, now 10, 11 is not much. We often tend to ignore the importance of this 1%. But that 1%, I guess, in the long term, can make a very big difference. Those are the returns. The 10-year return, the 20-year return at 10%, and the 20-year return at 11%. So Vishal, we all know it, right? Power of compounding. Whether it comes to habits, whether it comes to money, whether it comes to life. But yet, we just don't implement it. Radhika is the only one who implements it. I know it.
I think there are two reasons.
Sunil doesn't implement it. We've been talking about, sending mithais for his son's wedding. He's become a grandfather. Twins, right, Sunil?
I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, he does not implement. We'll talk about it later. Okay, Vishal, I know you implement it.
So two reasons. I'm too young, Nikunj. Thank you. So two reasons for that. I think one is that the importance of time, right? Power of compounding. Most people understand the formula, but most people don't adhere to the formula or don't adhere to the power of compounding simply for two reasons. One is that it's back-ended, right? If you were to simply say multiply your money 100 times in 25 years, right? It's a big number. 100 times in 25 years requires you to earn a 20% CAGR, a 20% annual average return over a 25-year period. In the first 20 years, you move from 1 to 40. The remaining 60 comes in the last 5 years. The question is who has the patience, right? So people who have patience to understand that power of compounding is back-ended, I think benefit from it over 20, 25 years and more than that. The second important factor which causes most people to ignore the power of compounding and benefit from it is that nothing happens in the first 5-10 years, right? We all want to grow our money fast as possible. So we're all looking at multi-baggers in 3 years, 5 years. We all want to sacrifice a process just to earn quick returns. And we all suffer from the fear of missing out just because we see others making money faster, right? And the moment our stocks and our portfolios are not doing well in the 3 to 5 year period, we start getting impatient. So since nothing happens in the first few years and it's completely back-ended, I think these two factors cause a lot of people who understand the formula power of compounding, who've seen others, the best investors out there, or even general investors out there who've created wealth over 20, 25, 30, 40 years, still don't get it. As you rightly said, Einstein's definition, he said people who understand it earn it, people who don't understand it pay it. So I think people who understand the value of time, importance of time, that it's back-ended, that nothing happens in the first few years, they are the people who actually benefit from it.
Well, from one grandfather to a relatively new mom, I'm sure, Radhika, goals must have changed a year back. It's important, right, to actually do goal-based investments.
It is, but I'll tell you a goal and a compounding story linked together because both can be vague. So, my father, we were talking about various generations, he worked in the IAS, but effectively he started investing at the age of 45 in equities. This was in mid-90s, when the equity culture had just started picking up. He had a whole bunch of physical shares. Now, I graduated from a business school and I started investing at the age of 22 when I started, or 25 actually. My son started investing at the age of 6 months because when he was a month old, we took him to an Aadhaar card office. We got him a PAN card and he has his own bank account. I'm saying this because a lot of people don't even think minors can have all this stuff. And to your point about goals are extremely important. So we actually started using SIPs towards a goal. The goal is foreign education. And we said, we're going to mix it up. We're going to have an equity SIP. So he has an SIP in a large and mid-cap index fund. He has an SIP in a small cap actively managed fund. And he has an SIP in an international fund because our currency depreciates, is likely to depreciate over 18 years. And what we did is we just looked at the cost of an international education, today and started SIPs to build up to that amount, hoping that equity compounding will take care of the inflation. And the reason I tell you this story is that, once you have a child or once you have a family, you have so many different goals. And SIPs and investments can be plugged in to realize those goals and make those goals come true. So I always say the family should sit together and decide what the goals are jointly and create goal-wise buckets, rather than large cap, mid cap, small cap. Why don't you build your portfolio on the basis of goals? And that's what we've been doing.
Okay. Now let's go back to that very basic thing, goals. Now goals can vary. Just like one shoe does not fit all, the goals actually can vary. What Vishal has done is that he's given a very basic thumb rule of what you need to do, what you should not do. Save money, emergency fund, medical insurance. Invest the rest, which is first save and then spend. Very simple. What we do is
write a will, avoid debt, e-document, and review all these 7 processes every 6 months also.
very basics. No, we tend to overestimate the volatility in the market when markets go up and down, asset allocation. But Vishal, very simple, very, very simple thing. First save and then spend. हम उल्टा करते हैं, right? Some of us don't save only. Forget about investing. We buy iPhone on a leverage.
That's true.
So save first and then invest rest. For somebody who's starting young, you would say, what about my basic needs? What about my foreign holiday? Everybody is talking about delayed gratification. But if I don't want a biryani, I want to eat pizza first. I need to spend it today. I don't want to save and enjoy it when I'm old. That is a word which we get back when we talk about financial saving. So it's very easy, Vishal. Save first and invest later on.
It is easy, but
difficult to implement.
I think that's right. I've slightly changed my mind on that over a period of time, Nikunj, and I think that's very important. Even now, my kid is a teenager as well, right? It's very important to save and then spend. And we all have heard that marshmallow experiment where kids were given marshmallows and they were asked to sit in a room quietly, not eating that marshmallow. And if they actually could have waited for 15 minutes, they were given another marshmallow. And they tracked the life of those kids who actually waited and did not eat the first marshmallow. And those kids actually turned out to be successful and got good grades and all those kind of things, right? Buffett was once asked by a child, right, what do you think about delayed gratification? And he said that you should delay gratification, but not everything, right? So we always need to balance. Since we're talking about asset allocation, we're talking about balance. So while the younger generation of people who are starting to earn their salaries and they are still confused about what to do about delaying gratification, nobody's there to teach them, right? It's very important to, if you have 10 marshmallows, for example, I would say you save around 6 or 7 for the future, but you should also enjoy 3 at this point of time. The problem that people are facing, and the problem that they're getting into is that they are consuming 7 or 8 at this point of time and then trying to save 2 if they save anything, right? So you need to have a balance. But as you rightly said, I think delayed gratification is such an underrated subject, which needs to be taught early in life to kids and by parents, by showing them how they are delaying gratification themselves, rather than just saying that you should delay gratification. Because for a 20-year-old kid or a 10-year-old, it's very difficult to understand the concept. It's only when you're like 40, 45, you understand the idea of the benefits of delayed gratification. So if you can show it to your child, if you can show it to your family, the younger ones, right? And also the idea of balancing it out. I think that's the task. Well done.
So Vishal, which is the better way to start your equity investment journey? Sundaram Mutual Fund, Edelweiss Mutual Fund, or simple Nifty ETF?
I've changed my mind there, but I've changed a lot of stuff as far as my thinking is concerned. I think for someone who's like a know-nothing investor, a good index ETF or index fund is I think a go-to product at this point of time. It's only one product, and we should not talk about Madiralai and Madirai on a public show here. But whenever I talk about goals and long-term investing and compounding, and I think there's this couplet from Harivansh Rai Bachchan which really comes on top of my mind, and I would just like to recite it over here. This is a poem called Madhushala, where he wrote a long time back, and there's a stanza which says, Madiralay jaane ko ghar se chalta hai peene wala, किस पथ से जाऊं असमंजस में है वो भूला भाला, अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब पर मैं ये बतलाता हूँ, राह पकड़ तू एक चला चल पा जाएगा मधुशाला. So there are various ways to build the cat. There is various ways to reach a financial freedom. But if you understand the path that you're walking on, if you understand the risks that you are taking, and whether it's personalized, right? Investing is very personal. You cannot really copy someone else and try to do your asset allocation or you're investing the same way. That's a part to hell, right? But if you can just focus on your process and just keep walking over a long period of time, you'll reach your Madhushala, or if I were to take your financial freedom someday, if you're only equating that with money. But otherwise, just to talk about a cliche, financial freedom, I think, is a state of mind. You can be financial free today if you understand how much is enough for you, right? And if you reach that enough,
Right.
which is a very tricky definition to define. What is enough, right? You're financially free. You don't need to worry about more money and more money and more investments and all those kind of things.
Well, but money matters, my friend, and money can, and some of your financial goals can be attained if you start early, believe in the power of compounding, plan your goals, and stick to your asset allocation. Very basic, but that's the idea of perhaps celebrating India's 77th Independence Day. That India has got independence 77 years ago. But have you reached? Have you started? Forget reached, Ayesha. I think reach is still a far away for a lot of us. But have you really started and embarked on this beautiful journey of financial planning? I think that's the endeavor and that's the spirit of the show, which right now we are showcasing all the mantras of financial inclusion.
This Independence Day, unlock the doors to your financial freedom. Learn 5 mantras on ET Now, your pathway to prosperity. Master the art of aligning your financial aspirations with strategic planning. Discover the power of patience and watch your wealth grow. Demystify the markets by understanding the difference between risk and volatility. Witness the magic of compounding as your money multiplies over time. Craft a winning strategy by diversifying your assets. So, how can you achieve financial independence? Send in all your burning questions and inquiries to @ET Live. Gear up for a programming experience like never before. This Independence Day, let ET Now be your guide to a brighter financial future. ET Now, rise with India.